tell us what happened that the administration should have done differently, not just leadership at CARB, so that we can have a comfort level going forward that things will in fact work better.
Well, I want to say very clearly that I personally don't believe there was interference. I think that's a mischaracterization. I think that, you know, again, I'm not in the governor's office, so I don't know exactly what the confusion was, or if there was confusion on that side, as well as I know, having worked with the Air Board staff, having regular meetings with the chairman and the executive officer, that it was unclear to us what was desired by the board and the exec and staff, and then what could possibly we could do, what more we could do. So that part I'm much more familiar with. I guess when I refer to the confusion on the part of the governor's office and whether or not there were mixed messages, I don't know. I'm not as, you know, I wasn't in meetings with the governor's office where there were mixed signals sent to the Air Board. I didn't get all these emails where there were mixed signals. So I'm not as familiar with that part. Going forward, I do think that, you know, we need to step back and relook at how we communicate with each other. And in fact, we are already doing that. The Secretary and I have had conversations about what can we do to provide clear communication between the Air Resources Board and Cal EPA, and more trust. How can we build that up? And between Cal EPA, the Air Resources Board, and the governor's office. Because I think at the end of the day, what I saw was I didn't know what the Air Resources Board thought was the right thing to do on early actions. I really didn't. And if you look at the way the board voted, they voted to keep the 3 and look over the next 6 months for more early actions. So that makes sense to me. But I didn't, before that day, it was very confusing. What does the staff want? What does the board want? What the chair, it seemed to me, did want. Our last meeting was at least thinking about looking at other actions. We had a discussion about possible other actions and could we look at the list again, those kinds of things. But there was no clear message and there was no clear communication. And I will say that I don't think we should just, you know, go hands off from now on. I think we need to work together. I think we have to have the leadership of the governor and that we have to have the leadership of the legislature to succeed, and we all have to work together, because this is just the first step. This is the early actions. We've got a scoping plan, we've got mandatory reporting, we've got an inventory, we've got years going forward to get to 2020. And that's going to require a coordinated effort where we're actually talking to one another and clearly communicating it. And I haven't, you know, I don't have an answer to exactly how we're going to do that, but I think we all need to sit down together with the new chairwoman and the secretary and the governor's office and talk about how we get there.
Well, I guess I'm still confused as to what you meant when you said there was confusion on both sides. And when you alluded several times to problems on both sides, and yet all we continue to hear about are, you know, problems at CARB. Is there anything that the administration of the governor's office did wrong in this story?
You know, again, I think that that the Air Resources Board has represented confusion about what was wanted or how much was appropriate, how much direction or how much input was appropriate. And to me, that's what I mean, is that we do need to communicate more clearly. And I guess that's where I think we all made mistakes, that the communication wasn't well understood, and it went, you know, both ways, and I think there was a lack of trust on both sides, and I think that will change with Mary Nichols coming on board.
Thank you. Lastly, Mr. Skopek, I appreciate that you would like the focus today to be on tools to address climate change. And we've had some discussion of some of those tools. I would submit to you that the reason that we're here today, and the reason there's so much concern on the part of the legislature, is that we believe that perhaps the most important tool to making this work is an independent and functioning Air Resources Board. And so I want to bring us right back to that tool and ask you first if you would agree that an independent and functioning Air Resources Board is arguably the most critical tool to making this work.
Yeah, I would agree, and a well-staffed and well-led board.
And yet the testimony that we've heard today paints a fairly ugly picture. One of a governor taking victory laps with the media, doing photo ops for magazine covers, while his senior staff in the Horseshoe are actively attempting to undercut what by all accounts is his very genuine commitment to these issues. When we hear this picture, one can imagine fairly clearly characters playing the part of Karl Rove, controlling things at a level that is unacceptable. Scientists being told what they can say, what they cannot say. This is stuff we've come to expect of the Bush and Cheney administration, but I think all of us had hoped that this administration held itself and held these issues to a much higher standard. And your response to that has been to call it all fiction.